Look at this thing. Can't even do passives. Bozo. But what if it could? I want to take a look at the passives of some of the warframes and see if any other frame could make good, or perhaps even better, use of them than the original. But first, a couple disclaimers. I am by no means an expert when it comes to every intricacy of every warframe and their passives. So there's probably some interactions I don't know, and there's probably some interesting combinations that I couldn't find. So if you think of anything, or just know of an interaction that I don't mention, leave it in the comments. Look at me doing a call to action at the start of the video instead of the end. Also, I will not be considering some passives that are just general buffs unless there's something deeper to them. Because yeah, Zephyr's passive would be pretty good on everyone. It's free crit chance. And being able to just stay in the Rift permanently would be broken on any caster frame. So none of that. First combination is Gyre's passive on Volt. Gyre's passive allows your abilities to have a higher crit chance per electric status effect on the enemy, which is significantly better than Volt's passive of when he's moving along the ground, he builds up damage that is added to his next attack. It's not that good, but he can apply a lot of electricity status effects, so it'll let his abilities have some pretty high crit chance. More electric stacks are better, so for like just generic nuke Volt with discharge, you might want to prime the enemies first somehow so you're not killing them too fast. But unless I'm missing something with his original passive, it can't be worse to have Gyres. Didn't expect this to be one of these videos, but it's going to be. You're getting editing booth voiceovers. The editing booth is still my room. It will always just be my room. I said right here that you might want to prime things, because if you're just using discharge, you might kill them too fast. Obviously, if you're killing things fast enough, then you don't care. Like, oh no, I killed the things so fast that I couldn't kill them faster. I more so meant it's really fun to see crit numbers pop up all over the screen. That's the only reason why you might want to prime things first. Otherwise, you could just keep pressing discharge. Next up is Nyx's passive on Corvex. Nyx gives 40% gun crit for radiation status effect on enemies, up to 200%, which is better, in my opinion, than Corvex's passive of punch through. Weapons get some punch through, which can be helpful for clearing, but I feel 200% crit with a bunch of radiation status effects is much better. And if Corvex throws down his pillars with his first ability, there's going to be at least 5 enemies with radiation status effect. Basically, just free 200% crit for guns. Then, Hydroid's passive on Saren. Hydroid's passive increases the base power of Corrosive, which allows max stacks of Corrosive to fully strip armor, as opposed to Saren's passive, which gives you increased status duration. Now, don't get me wrong. Losing the status duration isn't great on Saren. The statuses are very nice. But, and this might just be me, I always use Emerald Archon Shards on Saren. I do use Emerald Archon Shards on Saren so that I can get full armor strip from her corrosive status effects. Now, it's a built-in passive. So again, losing the status duration isn't great, but get to save 2 Archon Shard slots. Speaking of Saren's passive, throwing that on Citrine is very good. Citrine's passive being HP regen that scales up as you pick up health orbs, and Saren's, as previously mentioned, is increased status duration. Citrine applies a ton of status effects with her third ability, so the extra duration would be great, and much better than the health regen, especially because her 1, with enough strength, causes every enemy hit by it to drop a health orb on death. You don't really need the health regen. This one's kind of fake, but Varuna's passive on really anyone whose main form of defense is shield gating, but I'm going to choose Mag. Mag's passive is Item Vacuum. It's convenient, but by no means necessary or really even that strong. So Varuna's passive, specifically her 2, which the passive of her 2 gives you status immunity. And Mag, at least the way I play her, dies to toxic procs so much. Maybe the most of any frame other than like Hildred, but Hildred like definitely needs her passive. But like I said, this one's kind of fake because Varuna's passives gives these passive effects to her own active abilities. If you Helmith over Varuna's abilities, you can't use these passives. So moving the passive to a different Warframe would also mean you couldn't use them, but like, let me dream. I want to use Mag more. And the last real one that I could come up with for this video was Wisp's passive on Zephyr. Wisp's passive is that you are invisible as long as you are not touching the ground. And Zephyr's is that you get some crit chance while you're in the air. Now, losing the crit chance while airborne on Zephyr is by no means a good thing, but Zephyr can stay permanently airborne, which means permanent invisibility. That allows you to use stuff like Spectral Serration on your weapons for a bunch of base damage, and my personal favorite Arcane Crepuscular, which gives you extra ability strength and crit multi. Now, before you ask, yes, this would also work on Titania, and she would give up less by giving up her passive. But, two things. First, the invisibility only works for the first shot you fire before you have to wait half a second to go invisible again, which makes Titania's Exalted Guns much worse, even though her Exalted Melee would be much better. This also does apply to Zephyr, but with Zephyr you could use like a large AoE nuke weapon. And the second thing about Titania is that don't you guys have enough already? Now, I said that was the last real one, but what does that mean? I thought of one that, well, let me just tell you. Literally anything on Revenant. Bonus points if you can tell me what Revenant's passive is without looking it up. Seriously, tell me his passive. In fact, other than Mesmer Skin, which is his second ability, tell me the name and effect of any of Revenant's other abilities. I'll wait.